What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Vanguard live stream. Thanks for tuning in, comrades.
Yeah, another day in paradise. We actually have some really nice weather for once. This is what my life has come to. It's just like judging each day by how nice it is outside. But today has been very nice outside. Weather has been A1 in Kansas City. So hopefully everybody else is staying out of the fucking heat. Obviously, we've been roiled by some pretty big natural disasters. So I do know that obviously not everywhere is as nice as here.
Absolutely. So yeah, like I said, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Welcome to the Vanguard. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to hit that notification bell and hit that like button as well to promote the stream and the algorithm. Before we do get started with today's news and commentary, we do have a lot of good stuff to go over today, but we do like to start our live streams by shouting out our patrons. So thank you so much to everyone supporting the show on patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. That's the first link in the description. If you want to join our patron community, you can click that top link in the description. Like I said, access to our Discord server is another perk we offer our patrons, as well as early access to book club episodes and priority on our monthly Q&As, which we recently just did. So yeah, a lot of fun going on there. Again, hit up that top link in the description if you want to join our community. But just a huge shout out to everyone that currently supports the show.
Like you were saying, we do have a lot of shit to get into, but we appreciate everybody that supports us, everybody that's hanging out. Obviously, you're all comrades to us. Go ahead and hit that like button and the subscribe button just in case you haven't already. But yeah, I guess we can go ahead and plow into some news. One of the first things I actually wanted to talk to you about, Gavin, considering you're personally culpable and responsible for the state of affairs that we live in now, thanks to casting that Jill Stein vote of yours back in 2016, you now bear the responsibility for just about every tragedy that is unfolding before us. And I just wanted to know how you live with yourself, Gavin.
Well, it's a life of deep shame. You know, I just go through my everyday, goings on with this weight in my stomach, knowing that what I see around us, the horrors that surround us are my fault. It's been extraordinarily tough to deal with over the last 4+ years, realizing that myself and a small handful of other devoted third-party voters, it is our fault. And it's been a tough coming to terms with that, but luckily I am here, guys. So yes, I lash myself daily. That's what it is.
At least you can retreat into the warm embrace of Susan Sarandon.
Exactly. And indeed, I'm one of our biggest and earliest fans here at the Vanguard. So huge shout out to Susan. But yeah, obviously being sarcastic. If you guys aren't aware, there's been a lot of 2016 style discourse returning to left Twitter. And it's been thoroughly embarrassing again, as we see liberals essentially blaming the state of affairs on the likes of Susan Sarandon and Briahna Joy Gray for voting Green in 2016, essentially no different than the generation before them, which blamed Ralph Nader voters for George Bush. There's always a scapegoat, and that's back where we are. So yeah, pretty pathetic state of affairs, but we'll get into all that and more in a second.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, do you want to start with that story? We can look at some of the most cringiest tweets from some of these shit libs. I think Kathy Griffin, as always, takes the cake. It's like she has no career left in comedy, right? So the only time she ever made headlines would be if she would like pose with some like severed picture of Donald Trump's head for like, Yas Queen kind of feedback on Twitter. And it looks like she just doesn't know what to do with herself now. Because it's so much harder for her to get any attention because Joe Biden is president and she can't just take shots at Trump because he's kind of irrelevant. He's not on social media anymore, whatever. She says this: I'm really rather resentful towards the Jill Stein, Gary Johnson, and Bernie or bust folks with their protest votes because even Trump would be better than Hillary. I just don't trust her crap. And you know what? These smug assholes never even admit they were wrong. Hashtag Roe versus Wade. Yeah, this is just so cringy. And then I think Jane Lynch, she's another like blue check actress. I'm pretty sure she was on that show Glee. Like the Taliban, they played the long game and were patient. Like, is this supposed to imply that everybody that supported like Jill Stein or Bernie Sanders was actually just so maliciously planning on taking over the abortion rights of women, that you were, Gavin, you were just so nefariously waiting out the ability to control the outcome of a fetus that doesn't belong in your body. It's really ridiculous and cringy. And obviously what's happening in Texas is a very serious issue right? There should be no way that the government tells you that it's illegal to get an abortion. That's absolutely absurd. But I think people are just completely missing the opportunity to point out how fucking crazy and unacceptable this is, and really sticking the aim at our power centers that say, how is it even allowed that we have a constitution but we can't protect ourselves? Why is this not an inalienable human right? Why is it that this is even something that can be up for discussion? Why does these 9 fuckers have the ability to tell all of these women what they can and can't do, etc.? Nobody's asking the tough questions. They just immediately want to revert back to the most unconstructive talking points that they've ever devised, which is that everybody that voted for a third party in 2016 hates women.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely correct. And something else that I retweeted the other day, which I thought was hilarious, was this. Someone said, quote unquote, only electing Democrats could have stopped this, says the Democrats who were elected to stop this. So that pretty much sums up the mentality of these liberals who are currently shaming third-party voters, again, for everything going on, especially this abortion ban going through in Texas, potentially the end of Roe versus Wade, which, of course, is, something that's crazy and something that needs to be resisted at all costs. But that being said, it is so ironic, given that Democrats control everything right now, all 3 branches of government. And to be frank, the Supreme Court should no longer hold the relevance that it does. There's no reason why we should continue to stand for, as you said, 9 unelected fucking justices, most of which were appointed by a president who didn't even win the popular vote. So, keep that in mind. It's absolutely insanity that these people have as much power that they do. And frankly, in my opinion, any president that is running on anything short of a full plan to abolish the Supreme Court should not deserve your vote. Pretty much they're handing over all the power to the Supreme Court in that instance. Again, if they're not planning to radically restructure or abolish outright the Supreme Court, I think it's totally fair to say that anything less than that is unacceptable, at least in my opinion. But yeah, this was another example of some of the vitriol going around on Twitter. If you voted for Jill Stein, you did this. Again, of course, in reaction to the Texas abortion bill that's gone through and is threatening Roe versus Wade. So again, just total idiocy. As Walker Bragman points out, in any case, Democrats have a trifecta right now. Why don't they use it? Which is a very good question.
Yeah, and it's also not even like Hillary Clinton was always rock solid on abortion. Like, can we even have that conversation, right? Where Tim Kaine, the guy that she ran against, constantly told everybody that he personally didn't support abortions, that he was a Catholic, and early in his career, he didn't even support the woman's right to have it. This is who Hillary fucking Clinton, you're a stalwart of women's rights, was running with in 2016. Okay, so let's obviously Jill Stein supported women's rights, reproductive health care in all forms, whether that's abortion or screenings, whatever. She supported Medicare for all. And I guarantee you that if you ask Jill Stein, she thinks that all women's healthcare treatment should be covered under Medicare for all as well. So she's actually the more progressive candidate. So that on its face right there, it doesn't really play out that it's like, oh, you hate women, like you don't want women to have these things. You literally voted for a woman candidate that does support these things more vociferously than Hillary Clinton. And I say this as like a shameful fucking Hillary Clinton voter. Like, I swear to God, I would never vote for Hillary Clinton again. I just was really susceptible to peer pressure when I was 18, and I didn't want all of my friends to think that I was a fucking bigot. But yeah, I mean, if we're being honest, right? So I think that, it's just gross to see this kind of dialogue come back. And it's so fucking ridiculous too. Why can't we not just do an executive order from Joe Biden that says, hey, this is fucking unacceptable. It'll go to the courts. Then we battle it out in the courts. We design legislation with the last remnants of power that the Democrats have, right? This is something good that the Democrats actually say that they want to do. They could codify Roe v. Wade into law. They could pass it from fucking Congress, but they won't because they want to just fucking shame other voters instead of their Democratic colleagues who secretly don't want to vote for legislation, and they want to constantly just push it off onto the Supreme Court so they can cater to those fence sitting, oh, I'm socially conservative but fiscally I'll vote Democrat voters, or whatever the fuck people that they're trying to reach. I mean, it's a really cynical game. They could be doing something through legislation, right? We just have this broken ass world or country. Well, our world's broken, but specifically it's our country that's broken. We can't pass anything. Our Congress refuses to do fucking anything, and we're so just accustomed to it. We're so just accustomed to them being like, oh, sorry, this archaic fucking rule book that we're following just can't be adjusted, and therefore we're all fucked, and we're so mad that we're fucked, but we're still going to be completely impotent.
Yeah, well, that's why I was essentially saying that in my opinion, going forward, I don't think it is anything less than, full-throated plan to abolish the Supreme Court is worth voting for. Because again, this is one of these antiquated, playbooks, as you just said, that we keep having to operate under. We just saw that with the eviction moratorium. Once again, there is no progress coming out of the Supreme Court. It's antiquated. It's undemocratic. It's absolutely insane that they're able to have as much power as they do. And again, I know that sounds radical and out there. But again, it should at least be massively expanded. If you guys know anything about presidential history, FDR actually got his way with the Supreme Court by threatening to do just that, by threatening to massively expand the Supreme Court. He made them fear him. He made them fear for their relevance, and they bended to his will. So again, I think he should have gone all the way, but clearly you need to at least exert that threat on the Supreme Court to make them bend to your will. Otherwise, it's just a fucking joke. And again, I can't believe any president would let this continue in the state, especially a Democratic president with all three branches of government under their control. So it's total craziness. And also, I just want to point out too, in this tweet from Kathy Griffin, she even blames Gary Johnson, which is so funny. It's like they can't stop just shaming anyone for voting third party. Like, could you imagine a Trump supporter being like, "Goddamn, Kanye West stole the election from Donald Trump"? Like, what? People would look at them like they were fucking crazy. They'd say, "What are you talking about? Donald Trump ran a pathetic campaign. Of course he was going to lose that election. He didn't even barely try, seemingly. Why would you blame Kanye West? That's insanity." It's no different than the liberals making the argument of, "Oh, why did you vote for Jill Stein? You cost the election for Hillary Clinton." When again, it was a infinitesimal fraction of the country that voted for Jill Stein in comparison to the massive swaths of people that either voted for Hillary, voted for Trump, or didn't vote at all. Why aren't you people fucking blaming non-voters? Not that I would do that. I don't think, I don't have any vitriol for non-voters, but if you're going to blame anyone for Hillary's loss, you could blame Trump voters, or you could blame non-voters. That seems a lot more logical to me, because again, those people make up a way bigger fraction of the population than Jill Stein voters, which is literally like the smallest, most ragtag group of lefties in the unfortunately, I wish there were more of them. I wish Jill Stein had gotten more votes. It would be great if she got to 5% or something. That's why I voted for her in the attempt to make that happen. But we all know what did happen. And, speaking of the Bernie voters, because she's talking about Bernie or bust folks as well. That's crazy. Bernie Sanders voters actually voted in a more significant percentage for Hillary Clinton than Hillary's voters voted for Barack Obama in 2008. So it brings me no pleasure to say this, but it was the Bernie crowd that was actually, at the end of the day, more subservient to the Democratic machine than Hillary's voters, just in the previous election, or the previous election cycle beforehand, or two elections beforehand, I guess, technically. But so this is total insanity. Regardless of how you feel about any of this, it's just not true from a literal mathematical perspective, like I just laid out. So, this is absolutely crazy. Again, to take a look at all the horrible things going on in the world, whether it's climate change or the passage of this new anti-abortion law in Texas, or the expiration of the eviction moratorium, to look at any of these horrible things and point your fingers at, again, one of the most disempowered and ragtag group of individuals in this entire country when it comes to politics, to point your finger and wag it at them, obfuscating the blame and scapegoating it onto them, when there are serious power centers that actually deserve the blame. It's one of the most disgusting and reprehensible things you can do. And again, it's no different than what happened with the Ralph Nader voters when he actually challenged the two-party duopoly in 2000 and was subsequently blamed for the election of George Bush. It's no different, and it's just as insidious. It's the exact same shit, just recycled a decade or two later, and it's easy to see through, but unfortunately not for these blue check shit lib pieces of garbage.
Yeah, and not only that, they literally all got in line again and voted for Joe Biden, a man who, again, has notoriously spent his entire career waffling on the issue of women's reproductive rights. All right, let me just give you a fucking breakdown. Joe Biden enters the Senate in 1973. He's 30 years old. Then he's arguing that the Supreme Court went, quote, too far on abortion rights in the Roe case. He told an interview that the following year that a woman shouldn't have the sole right to say what should happen to her body, end quote. In 1981, with an anti-choice president newly elected, that's Ronald Reagan, Republicans controlling the Senate, social conservatives pushing for a constitutional amendment to allow individual states to overturn Roe v. Wade. In comes Joe Biden. God damn it. The amendment cleared a key hurdle in the Senate Judiciary Committee, of which he was a member, in March 1982. Support came not only from Republicans, but from now 39-year-old second-term Democrat Joseph R. Biden Jr. I'm probably a victim or a product, however you want to phrase it, of my background, Mr. Biden says. The decision, he said, was the single most difficult he's cast as a U.S. senator, but he is a devout Catholic, he assures us, and he does not believe in abortion. And since then, he's continued to waffle based on whether or not it was politically, effective for him to be like, oh, I'm a proud Catholic. I barely even use condoms myself. Like, whatever kind of rhetoric, or of course a woman has to have the right to decide. Guys, come on, champ, what's up with this? Come on, gotta let our ladies decide. He waffles back and forth between that rhetoric, but this is their champion. He's the one that's caused these fucking problems for all these years. And it's the same story over and over again. Criminality, racism, all this stuff. It all goes back to their boy Joe, and they refuse to do any fucking introspection at all. But I also did want to get to the few super chat.
Yeah, we'll get to these super chats in just a second, but I wanted to also add to what you just said and mention that also Joe Biden actually helped to take key provisions out of the ACA, which would help with women and abortion rights. He helped take that out of the ACA at the behest of the Catholic Church. So, you want to talk about allying with the far right. There you go, Mr. Joe Biden, pioneer of the strategy, working with the Catholic fucking Church. Again, he's obviously a Catholic, so it doesn't, it's not all
That's
that
the Hyde
surprising.
Amendment, right?
I believe so, yes. So, it's totally crazy. It's totally crazy that people are going to act like this guy is the antidote to the right-wing attack on women's rights. Absolute fucking bullshit. But yeah, I did want to shout out these super chats. Thank you so much, the Mr. Otts, for the $10. As an older Gen Zer or Xer, I have really enjoyed hearing the Vanguard's perspectives. I love the content and look forward to each new live stream. Well, thank you so much. That's great to hear. Really, really glad to hear you're enjoying the perspective and the show, the content. We're definitely having a good time producing it. So yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, Gavin and I were raised on Gen X cinema, so hopefully we give off a little bit of that vibe for you.
Johnston took more votes. I think you're talking about Hillary or Gary Johnson. I'm going to assume Gary Johnson took more votes from Trump than Stein took from Clinton. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Applying their logic, Trump would have gotten a wider vote share. So thanks so much for the $5, Hysteric Raider. And that's absolutely accurate. I think we also did a video about how you could technically argue if you're going to use the third party, spoiler vote logic, you could argue that, Joe Jorgensen, the Libertarian nominee last time around, cost Trump the election again. Again, if you're going to use this ridiculous, philosophy to determine why people won or lost elections, then you could do it there too. But again, you don't see anyone on the GOP side blaming fucking, Joe Jorgensen or Gary Johnson or Kanye West or any of the third-party candidates that arguably took attention away from their guy. It's totally crazy. It's total fucking insanity.
Ross Perot is literally the only person that's ever tanked. I think you could, and I don't even like using this framework, right? Nobody's entitled to your fucking vote and vote for whoever you want to, right? Or, I think everybody should vote, but, that's, you don't fucking have to if nobody earns your vote, I guess, right? But anyway, yeah, I think that what's his fucking name? I just said it. Ross Perot literally took 20 million votes in the 92 election with Bill Clinton and George H.W. Bush, and that was within the margin of George H.W.'s loss. And Ross Perot was running on a low taxes, like basically a modern day libertarian kind of a message, right? So the Republicans could be the ones that are beating that drum, but they always just kind of like swat it away. They never really actually engage with that whole, like, that person stole the election from us. Like, you don't really hear that rhetoric when a Libertarian Party candidate is running. It's just the Republicans just kind of ignore it. They're like, we're the Republicans, vote for Republicans. Like, that's like the one thing you can say about them that's not like totally fucked up about how they run their party. They just kind of let the other third parties exist. But yeah.
Right. And again, not trying to sit over here and give credit to the GOP, God forbid, but if you want to talk about why people voted third party in 2016, I think it's fair to say that a big fraction of those people voted so because of the fact that the primary was quite blatantly hijacked from Bernie Sanders by the likes of Debbie Wasserman Schultz on behalf of Hillary Clinton. Again, in the most fucking obvious, blatant way of all time, via the super delegates. Even before the WikiLeaks stuff came out, it was so obvious what was going on with the super delegates, with all this behind the scenes shenanigans that was systemically giving Hillary Clinton this massive advantage. So why the fuck do you think people voted third party, man? Why the fuck do you think that people like me looked at that cesspool of anti-democratic shenanigans and decided that maybe we didn't want anything to do with it? Maybe that we weren't going to participate and cast them our fucking vote after being fucked in the ass. You know, I wonder why we did that.
Yeah, and then just to take this quick super chat from Dieter McBusiness. What's up, Dieter? We've seen you a lot recently, not into third party, but non-voters really to blame. Look, man, non-voters have been fucked a lot, probably more than the rest of us in a lot of instances. If you look at the economic situations of a lot of non-voters, right, these are people that are completely disenfranchised. It's apathetic. Is that, in my view, the correct political response to this completely fucked, like Gavin said, cesspool of political options that we live in? No, but I think it's a perfectly ripe opportunity for the left to say, all right, guys, this is who we need to be talking to right now. And when we approach those people, they say, I don't fucking trust any politicians. And we should say, good, because you fucking shouldn't. And then you kind of start to be like, here's how, you're tired of the government playing you. Here's how you can have politicians that'll make the government play for you, right? Like, this is socialism. The healthcare can be provided for you in the same way that like other shit is provided for you, except we could do an even better job if we, allocate our resources better. So I think that reaching those people and meeting them where they're at, skeptical of all of the government, is the perfect place to start, because those people are honestly a lot more rational than these indoctrinated fuckheads who want to just fight with you about everything that's you disagree with MSNBC hosts about. You know what I mean? Same with the Fox News crowd. These non-voters, these are people who are ripe for fucking conversation. These are people who usually think for themselves. They have heterodox views. They're, interesting people. And I think if we related to them and we didn't cast them aside, we could scoop up a lot of them onto the left.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously that was Bernie's strategy in 2020, arguably one that failed, unfortunately. But you're absolutely right that we do need to communicate with and convince these voters to participate when the time is right. Again, not that, most Democrats, in my opinion, are even worth voting for in the first place, but those of them that are, we can talk about that, the people like Bernie Sanders, and also the ballot initiatives. There are reasons to vote in your local election, even if you are totally sick of the, two-party duopoly, even if you don't want to participate in that. There's still ballot measures, and in my opinion, a lot of local elections like city council and those sort of things are also very much worth participating in. So again, I agree that but what I'm saying is that I agree with Dieter in the sense that if you are going to blame anyone, like I said, for Hillary losing to Trump, then I would, I guess, at least blame the Trump voters and the non-voters instead of the third party voters. Because again, there's a way bigger fraction of the population that voted for Trump or didn't vote than those that did vote for a third party candidate. Again, like 1% of the fucking voting population. So it's just so ridiculous. But yeah, appreciate the super chat. Looks like we got a couple more as well. Thanks so much, John McKinney. Really appreciate the super chat. 2016, I voted for Gary Johnson. In 2020, voted for Joe Jorgensen. In 2016, Hillary supporters blamed me for her loss. In 2020, Trump supporters blamed me for Donald Trump not being reelected. So I guess that's kind of contrary to what we were just saying about how the GOP doesn't do this sort of thing. They don't, point the finger at third party voters. I guess in John's experience, he was shamed for voting Joe Jorgensen by Trump supporters. So maybe that does go on more so than I've observed. Obviously, I, hang out more in lefty spaces online, so I'm not as privy to that, I guess. But interesting observation. And like I said, again, no one should be blamed for the outcome of an election because of a third party vote that was cast. It's absolutely ridiculous. But did you have any comment on this super chat, Zach?
Yeah, it looks like he has a second part of it too. It says if 2024 is, let's say, I don't know, Candace Owens versus Rick Santorum versus Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom, I will vote third party again when Kamala loses. Don't blame me for her loss. Hey, we're never going to blame anybody for the loss of a shitbag politician like Kamala Harris. I think it's pretty obvious why her campaign would be uninspiring, and I don't even have to get into why I would have radically opposed Candace Owens and Rick Santorum. I hope. So yeah, I think if that's the turnout that the Democrats have, we're completely fucked. And I also would not be voting for Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom. I would be voting for, I hope to God, somebody decent. We're all just fucking ride in Cornell West and fucking go to bed. I don't know. But this would be just a disaster, and unfortunately one that I can foresee developing.
Yeah, and that's the issue here. It's like, in this scenario, which unfortunately, like you just said, is not totally outside of the realm of possibilities. In a scenario like this, Do you really expect Democratic Party, the people are going to show up for Kamala Harris and vote for her? Because I promise you, if that's who your nominee is, you're digging your own grave and you can't blame anyone but yourself when she fucking loses. Because just like with Hillary Clinton, if you put up this milquetoast, meaningless, stands for nothing candidate, this personification of the establishment, a personification of everything that people fucking hate about partisan politics in this country, then yeah, you can expect them to lose. Like, what do you think is going to happen when you don't nominate the guy who was literally getting stadiums full of fucking people out? Like, what do you expect when you nominate the antithesis of that to happen? It's crazy. And obviously, I think it's fair to say that Joe Biden won for a lot of reasons that, were different than that were different circumstances than the Hillary Clinton election. I think that the COVID pandemic had so much to do with that because people wanted to go back to normal. They wanted the safe option, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's a different story altogether. I don't think it was because of Joe Biden's charisma or political talents or his message that he won at all. I just think it was a reflection of just how bad Trump was and Trump's, campaign was. But that being said, it looks like we got one more super chat from Sean Shank Redemption. Loving the username. Thanks for the $9.99. I guess we're just supposed to go along with voting for a bunch of liberals that are walking us into fascism because a bunch of Hollywood libs say so. And yeah, that's kind of what I was just articulating. It's like, yeah, you can pretend that putting up some milquetoast establishment caricature like Kamala Harris is what we're supposed to do as progressives, and that's the option we're supposed to pick. But let's be honest, what it really is just a pathway to faux populism, to the fascism of a Donald Trump like character. Because again, as I just said, you can't put someone like that, someone so unpopular, up for national election and then be surprised when they lose to a monster who happens to be more charismatic, who happens to have slightly better messaging when it comes to economics and that sort of thing. So, I just think that's absolutely correct, that it really is a doorway to faux populist fascism, as has been proven by Obama's 2 terms leading directly to Trump, and as we're probably about to see unfold again in the next election cycle.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it depends. I mean, obviously, it'll depend on what your definition of fascism. If Trump is your definition of fascism, I think then you could say we've already arrived. I mean, obviously, there's plenty of room for shit to get worse. I don't want anybody to kid themselves that we're already at as far badly as it could go. It's really fucking bad and it's terrible, but it could get way worse. So I think that that's definitely something to observe. But yeah, I think broadly this point is correct, right? It's get in line. We're going to smear you. We're going to make everybody treat you like you're a terrible person unless you fall in line, unless you kind of capitulate to what we're pushing you towards. And then you get that kind of neoliberal progressivism where it's like, oh, we're going to use nice words while we exploit everyone. And that's about the opportunity. Those are the choices that you have left through institutional voting mechanisms. You can either vote for an open-faced fucking brute like Donald Trump, who says the quiet part loud and, oh, we're going to win and we're going to crush everybody who doesn't fucking agree with us and all that jazz. Or you can have the, polite face of imperialism that continues to go on and talk about necessities and compromise and risk assessment. And really that just means slaughtering a bunch of people so we can take their shit. I did want to get one disappeared super chat that I still pulled up here. It looks like it says Cordell Blissett, all dirt day left and non-voters should vote whatever third party in 2022 and 2024 to F the establishment. Yeah, but either way, I think that's a good plan. And honestly, we have to do something to get kind of people out of the rut of either staying home or, voting in the this kind of making this Faustian bargain, right? That we're always fucking pushed back into, where it's like, you can have this much if you take this guy, or you can have literally negative if you take the other guy. So yeah, we have to just force that out of our minds. We're moving forward from 2020, and I think that should be the big press for all of us. Is in 2024 we have to find somebody that can at least work an outside game that we can all get behind, hopefully with the vigor and the excitement and the energy that we got behind Bernie Sanders collectively as the left.
Looks like we got one more super chat from Dieter, so thanks so much for the $4.99. Agreed. LW poll strategy. Not 100% sure what you're referring to there. But LW poll strategy should be focused on non-voters and doesn't blame disenfranchised, but rather blame lazy non-voters who just don't want to do paperwork. Yeah, that's an interesting comment, and thanks so much for the $4.99. Again, I don't know if I would necessarily call them lazy. I think that a lot of people have evaluated the situation and decided that their life has not meaningfully improved regardless of who's in power, and that is, made them decide that it's not worth their time to, take some of the few hours of the day they have off from their shitty job to go stand in a line and vote in an election that, again, won't have that much of a tangible impact over their life anyway. So I don't know if that's laziness or just reasonable cynicism with the establishment and the system. Either way, I definitely think there should be outreach. If there is a candidate that actually is fighting for these people, then it's incumbent on them to change those people's mind. But yeah, thanks for the super chat.
100%. I agree with that. And I did want to pull up one of these Vaush tweets because it pissed me off. And I was like, okay, we got to at least fucking put this up here so we can just dismantle this really quickly for everybody in the audience. He came after Briahna Joy Gray, like everybody else on the internet that was a shit lib, trying to basically do like a whole gotcha, like you don't understand anything about politics, like blah, blah, blah. Let's see, where's the Vaush tweet? Should be in the folder. Let's see here.
Yeah, no, I have it here. One sec.
No worries.
Sorry, guys. Got to find this correct tweet. Oh, yeah, here it is. So this was a tweet that some people resurfaced from like 2016 from Briahna, where she tagged NPR and says you guys are 100% wrong regarding the importance of the Supreme Court in support for Hillary Clinton. And apparently she deleted that tweet. That was from 2017. And here, so Dennis Perkins says, why did you delete this? Because she says, I have truly no interest in bringing this stuff up today. We could all be talking about the Supreme Court reform, how to support Texas, etc. But Hillary, dead enders won't stop blaming everyone but themselves for getting us here. And that's very accurate. So again, Dennis Perkins, blue check motherfucker. I don't even know who this is. Apparently a writer for the AV Club. Post this deleted screenshot in an attempt to do a gotcha. And Briahna responds and says to try to make it a little harder for people like you to harass me over a good tweet that accurately assessed the political utility of shaming voters into voting blue no matter who with their Supreme Court. Did it work, though? Ignorance finds a way. And then Vaush responds and says, LMAO, cope, stand by your L's. You were too stupid to understand basic political risk assessment.
Oh, the Vaushmeister coming in here with this big fucking knuckles dragging on the floor, this ape energy, right? Okay, guy, you're too stupid to understand risk assessment. All right, Mr. That's why we have to stay in Afghanistan, right? That was the risk assessment, right? Like, Vaush is a fucking neoliberal talking point machine now. He just kind of finds a way to distill it and, use a bunch of words that you would find in long philosophy textbooks so he can tell everybody that he's actually this, like, enlightened neo fucking whatever the hell anarcho fucking Biden syndicalist, whatever the hell his, framing is for his political ideology. But look, I think that this is just a fundamental misunderstanding of American politics, right? Do you know where Briahna Joy Gray is a registered voter, Vaush? Do you know where she is a registered voter? It ain't a fucking state that went to Donald Trump, bro. It ain't. Do you need a fucking 12-year-old to explain how electoralism in America works to you, bro? We have an electoral college. We do not have direct democracy. I agree with you. We should have direct democracy in many, many, many more forms than we have. But at this point, having somebody say, I'm not going to fucking do this, I don't think that Hillary Clinton is valid to vote for, somebody who will do all kinds of neoliberal horse shit after guess what? Barack Obama was literally the president and did not nominate his Supreme Court justice. Let's not forget that. Barack Obama had a Supreme Court justice stolen from him. He didn't fucking fight for it. He didn't fucking do anything. He just rolled over like a dead dog and let the Republicans stack the Supreme Court. Why the fuck would we trust them to protect the Supreme Court ever again? Why the fuck would we do that? Now, with the fucking Senate, the House, and the White House, they're not protecting the fucking women's right to choose. They're not stacking the Supreme Court like it was all the rage to fucking talk about just months ago when everybody was like, well, technically he does have the power to do this if he wants to go ahead and do it. No, guess what? They just want to use it as a way to have their bullshit, non-incrementalism, They want to have stasis. They want to stay in power. They want to keep fundraising. They want to keep fucking doing everything business as usual. And when you fuck that up, then they have to come for you. When you say, no, I'm not participating in your fucking game, that's going to screw you every single time, like it always has, which is the point Briahna Joy Gray was making, that these people aren't trustworthy enough to protect the fucking Supreme Court. So why would we base our decision about who is going to be the leader of our democracy, all these things, right? Those are all fair points to make. All of them, right over Vaush's head, because he's just looking for cheers from this neoliberal cloud, so he can chase Hassan Piker's views. Maybe he can get 30,000 Twitch streamers someday if he keeps jacking off all the right people on the internet. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that's very accurately said. And David Sirota actually bolsters that point you just made here by saying, quote unquote, Susan Sarandon is to blame for the Texas abortion law, says Team Blue zombies who think you're too stupid to know that the Democratic Congress could choose to pass legislation literally today that preempted/invalidated the Texas law and enshrined Roe versus Wade as the law of the land. So he's talking about Vaush there when he says these Team Blue zombies, whether he knows it or not. That's exactly who he's describing. And it's so true that motherfuckers like Vaush, these fucking liberals on Twitter, are literally blaming Susan Sarandon and Briahna Joy Gray for what has gone on instead of the actual powers that be, the motherfucking, trifecta of government power that is the Democratic Party right now, which again isn't doing jack shit. And speaking of voting blue, no matter who, if you're really that concerned about people going out there wasting their goddamn time to vote for these shitty Democratic politicians, then maybe when the Democrats do control everything, you should be advocating for them to actually fucking do something so that people are inspired enough and feel like it's worth their goddamn time to go vote for these fucking people. Like, what do you expect to happen if you give the Democrats complete control? They don't do anything. They don't make people's lives terribly meaningfully better. And then you expect people to go keep participating in this, keep voting for them over and over again as if it's actually going to matter. Think about all the shit going on in this country right now. Think about how bad COVID is. Think about all these evictions that are taking place. The homelessness crisis is getting out of control. Imagine if Donald Trump was president right now. You know what I'm saying? All these liberals would constantly be freaking out, talking about, oh, well, if we'd only voted for Joe Biden. We did vote for Joe Biden, not me, but the country did. He won. He's the fucking president, and shit is just as fucking bad right now as it was when Donald Trump was president. Maybe there are marginal areas where it's better. Sure. I think Joe Biden's done some good things. But when it comes down to your average American's experience, I can't say that it's probably terribly all that meaningfully different. And again, that's not because of the fucking Supreme Court or anything else. It's because of the fucking captured state of our government, which is controlled by lobbyists, which write their legislation, which force down our throats policies, which destroy the planet, which strip us of our rights day by day. Again, this is not necessarily even a partisan issue at this point. It's just the issue of our political establishment. And that's what needs to be dealt with. And that's what someone like Briahna Joy Gray, someone like Susan Sarandon understands when they advocate for challenging said establishment. They understand that edging fucking 5% more in the blue direction isn't going to meaningfully shift things in the way that is called for right now. We're dealing with existential threats on all fucking arenas from every direction. It's not the time to sit here and advocate for voting for Hillary fucking Clinton. Again, we should realize this. It's not rocket science. And also, I think it's terribly ironic here. This is worth pointing out. It's terribly ironic here that Vaush is literally trying to do this gotcha, calling Briahna Joy Gray stupid for advocating this this message, when literally, a month ago, a couple weeks ago, Vaush and his ilk were shitting all over anyone who had any criticisms of Nina Turner. Calling them, saying that they had affected the election in a negative way and they caused Nina Turner to lose, etc. But now the ironic thing is that Vaush sounds like a Chantel Brown supporter. Because if you remember, what did Chantel Brown supporters dredge up about Nina Turner to try to smear her? The fact that she voted for Jill Stein. The fact that she said voting for Joe Biden was equivalent to eating half a bowl of shit. Those were the statements about Nina Turner that were literally put on billboards to try to smear people or to smear her and dissuade voters from supporting her. Now you're embracing those tactics of Chantel Brown in order to smear Briahna Joy Gray, who, like Nina Turner, also worked on the Bernie Sanders campaign. So basically, one person whom you defended at all costs and literally called her critics responsible for her loss, you're now employing the same tactics against another progressive woman in Briahna Joy Gray. So total inconsistency. You're just, you're saying whatever is politically convenient for you to try to make you look good and to try to, make Briahna look bad because for whatever reason you hate her, clearly. Anyway,
it's just debate bro bullshit, right? It's like, how can I make myself look like the alpha in this situation? How can my audience think I'm right? How can I make myself look like I was never wrong? And I think that's how Vaush just looks at every situation, right? How can I spin this politically to my audience to make them see or think that I saw this coming and this is exactly what I was telling them? It's like an old habit by everybody that works in politics that has no fucking sincerity and they just want to fucking grow. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. But I did want to shout out to John McKinney for another super chat. Thank you very much for the donation. Here's an analogy of the 2016. Donald Trump equal Judge Frollo from Disney's Hunchback of Notre Dame. The only difference is Frollo is smart and competent. Hillary Clinton is Cruella de Vil, 101 Dalmatians. Yeah, dude. I mean, I 100% agree with that sentiment. Obviously, in 2016, Gavin and I were both hardcore fucking Bernie guys. I ended up moving to Chicago, getting a little bit more indoctrinated, and I won't blame this on anybody but myself. But I've evolved much politically since I was 18 as far as like how rooted in my like anti-shit liberty I am, but I did fall guilty to a lot of these, or a victim to a lot of these fucking arguments that it was like, oh, somehow you like fucking hate black people, you're not a comrade, you don't like, you hate women, you don't, stand for fucking anything. If you're just a white guy with all this privilege that, you're like, all right, whatever. You kind of fall into that kind of shit if it's all you're hearing from all angles and you don't want to be considered a bad person. So admittedly, I'll fucking, wear my fucking bad decisions openly, right? I voted for Hillary Clinton. Do I regret that? I mean, right, like I try not to regret too much of my past, but would I do it over again? Probably not, right? So yeah, I don't have any judgment against anybody that voted for Jill Stein. I think they probably had more fucking sense than I did when I cast my vote for Hillary Clinton. So that's just my 2 cents.
Well, for one, I don't think anyone should feel bad about whatever vote they cast in any specific election, any specific time. Obviously, everyone is always in a state of change when it comes to their political evolution. Everyone's always, considering things from different angles and perspectives as they evolve as a human being. So, don't feel too bad. What I will say, though, about you, Zach, is something that I've observed since those days is that what's changed mostly is your media diet. I think back then you were mostly absorbing mainstream media outlets versus now you've integrated a lot more independent media into your, media diet. And I think that makes all the world a difference because obviously you're never going to get these sort of heterodox perspectives, these, calls to actually seriously challenge power from mainstream sources. And that's one of the big reasons why I am so passionate about independent media is because, it's like a brain dewormer in a sense,
Yeah, I mean, 18-year-old me thought the greatest job in the fucking world would be being like a Vice content creator, right? Like, I just thought that was like fucking it, And now I'm like, I would rather wipe my ass with a contract sheet from Vice than ever take a fucking job from those dog shit fucking pro-imperialists. But at the time, you're like, wow, these people are edgy and cool, right? And that's how mainstream media works, right? They commodify that edginess. It's actually really interesting if you read Abby Hoffman, his autobiography, he fucking hates Rolling Stone magazine with every ounce of his fucking blood because he said that they co-opted everything that the revolution could fucking sell and they disregarded everything else, right? So everything that they could use to get eyes on them, that was what Rolling Stone started to sell. And then they said, fuck you with all of your politics. So a guy like Abby Hoffman couldn't write a fucking op-ed and Rolling Stone magazine to say, hey, everybody, I'm going to be at this campus. Let's fucking raise hell, do whatever. No, they were like, oh, look at all these hippy dippy people and all the rock and roll. And that was it. They just fucking, yeah. Hey, steal this book. That's another great book as well. But anyway, yeah, I think that's been a long time role of mainstream media. And you're right. Over the past probably like 4 years, my media diet has just evolved like crazy. And it shows how important it is the freedom of information is. And that's why Gavin and I are such big hard asses on freedom of speech, even defending the speech that we fucking detest. The people that we think are the most deplorable, right? Fucking Holocaust deniers, neo-Nazis, all these fucking scumbags that of course we hate, detest, think they're fucking, worthless human beings. But we can't protect the free flow of information while regulating free speech. The first thing that will go is anything that Gavin and I actually want to get our fucking hands on to read. and then they'll just use divisive language and shit to, justify it or whatever the fuck. But they'll be like, oh, well, you're going to be like killing so many people if we told you this is how they justify like classifying everything, right? You can't get into this kind of a mode because just like with the US government right now, fucking everything that's going to make them look bad gets classified, right? This is a problem, and it, protects people from having accountability. So if we spread that outside of the military, where it should be combated already, we're just going to have no good access to information. There's going to be nowhere where you can go. These are why things like net neutrality are also a big deal, because if you have to pay like $500 to get access to an internet server that's going to take you to the grayzone.com, a lot less people are going to be able to read the fucking gray zone. You know what I mean? Because that would be considered fringe, problematic. I mean, they've already thrown fucking everything at the gray zone, right? You can't even credit them on Wikipedia or any of their staff writers. So yeah, it's crazy. But anyway.
Yeah, 100%. And again, that's one of the big reasons why I'm such an advocate for independent media. It's one of the big reasons why I think it's terrifying, the state of our media landscape. And honestly, people are, to a much bigger extent than they realize, a product of their media diet. I genuinely believe that to be the case. People absorb so much of what they hear from their media diet, and that colors their political opinions to an extent that affects all of us, again, in a way that's probably more intense than we even realize. So if you're going to be absorbing a lot of media, and that's going to be helping you form your opinions, you should at least be including some independent, non-bought off voices in that diet. Because again, people don't even realize that they're eating, breathing, living, drinking propaganda all day long. Every time they look at their phone, every time they scroll through their goddamn newsfeed on Twitter, they're ingesting and absorbing straight propaganda. They don't even know it. So again, I really advocate everyone, at least include some independent voices in that media diet as well. That way, at least there's some pushback to the mainstream narratives that are being proffered by the likes of, the establishment sources that everyone is inundated with. Again, every time they turn on the TV, every time they look at their phone, every time they seek out information, that is what they're presented with. You have to go out of your way to find the independent stuff. It's not forced on you like the corporate shit. So, that's worth saying. And again, a lot of people don't even realize it. I see it all the time when I talk to liberals mainly. These people, they don't even realize that they're repeating largely propaganda. You know what I'm saying? They don't even have any reckoning with that fact. So I just think that's important to say. Also, thanks Sean for the $4.99 Hillary versus Kamala. Jesus Christ, man, I can't make that choice. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're going to try and seriously evaluate this, I'm going to go ahead and say that long-term Hillary's caused way more destruction. And I think that she is internally more nefarious and also more like plugged into the power mechanisms. I feel like it, but I mean, this is like, fuck, man. Like, I guess I would take Kamala if I had to pick. I don't want Hillary to ever be president.
Yeah, I genuinely don't know if I could. I mean, I personally would never vote for either of those people. So if you're saying who would win an election, probably Hillary, I guess, just because she has more name recognition potentially. But I don't fucking know, man. Again, this is like some real, like, would you rather get shot in the face or shot in the back of the head? Like, I don't know,
But do you want to eat Steve Bannon's asshole or Donald Trump's? Like, fuck, man, I don't fucking know.
Yeah, exactly. Essentially, there is a little bit more of this Twitter action, though. We got away from this a little bit, but I did want to go back. Let's see what's up here. So yeah, again, this is that Vaush tweet. I don't think Briahna Joy Gray even dignified it with a response, so good on her. But let's take a look at some of the other tweets I wanted to spotlight. Here's a good one. Because again, Reza Aslan, I don't know who this is. I guess they're a producer and an author or something. But anyway, so this was his dumb fuck tweet. Briahna responds to that quite hilariously and says, I am very powerful. Joe Biden, in the filibuster, cancel student debt, pass $15 minimum wage, do Green New Deal, and enact voting rights reform, or who knows what I'll do next time. So I thought that was pretty funny. Again, basically these people are saying that, it was people like Briahna Joy Gray that, gave us the situation we're in now. So, she's ironically, commenting, oh shit, you're telling me I have that much power? I'm the one responsible for this? Oh shit, I didn't know how powerful I was. Susan Sarandon also posted this, which is pretty funny because someone says, I'm going to start praying to Susan Sarandon since she's apparently so powerful. She may be a goddess. So yeah, that's pretty funny too. I enjoy the fact that Susan and Briahna are engaging in pretty, comedic ways with this idiocy, because that's what it is. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a ridiculous one. I won't dispute the fact that Susan Sarandon may be a goddess. Shout out to Susan Sarandon, OG supporter of the Vanguard, as OG as it gets. But yeah, again, this is ridiculous. It's nice to see that they're both like poking fun and like just making a mockery of this absurd fucking claims, right? And not internalizing any of this bullshit. But yeah, she said like, she made another tweet, Briahna Joy graded, right? She was like, hey, these are my terms. Cancel student debt or I'm going to doom the Supreme Court further by voting green in DC. Like, she's just like fucking sticking it to these people. Like, you know, fuck you. Like, you don't control me. You don't get to control how I behave. And also, I'm going to show you just how absurd your line of attack is. So, you know, I think that this was just a great showing by Briahna Joy Gray. Did want to address this one super chat. Old SC went poof, but Dems could have 100% of government, but still making excuses for sucking out. They always are going to make excuses for sucking. And I mean, this goes back to Barack Obama. Barack Obama had a fucking supermajority, but where was that robust healthcare plan that he promised us? Instead, we got the Romney bill. So anyway, I think this is just something that we've seen time and time and time again. And it goes back to those points that people like Susan Sarandon and Briahna Joy Gray have been making for quite some time, that we can't place our hands in Democrats because they fuck us too, right? You know, Matt Taibbi made the point the other day on Breaking Points. Is the war in Afghanistan, for example, is as bipartisan of a fiasco as we fucking have, even though everybody wants to just point fingers, right? Hillary Clinton, I don't know if she would have ever gotten us out of the fuck out of Afghanistan. You know what I mean? She probably would have stayed there longer. So this idea that, you know, I don't know, you can just like make a decision like that and it's like, oh, you know, history would have worked out exactly how I'm imagining it. Like, guess what? If you ask anybody how it would have worked out with Barack Obama, they would have thought that he had an extra fucking Supreme Court nominee. We'd have Supreme Court Justice Garland, right? Instead of the fucking AG. So I don't know.
Yeah. And also, speaking of, you know, Obama, Ruth Bader Ginsburg absolutely should have stepped down under Obama and allowed him to, you know, pick her replacement. Again, you're gonna blame the least powerful people in the country and not the most. What the fuck are you doing? But yeah, thanks Hysteric Creator for the $5 and totally agree with that as well. But yeah, overall, I just thought this was crazy discourse on Twitter. Absolutely insane that this bullshit talking points from like 2016. I mean, 2016 is only the most recent emergence of these talking points. Like I said, they've been around since the Ralph Nader days when he was blamed for George Bush, and probably before then as well. But it's just crazy to see this resurfacing now and people totally unironically trotting out these cliched, idiotic arguments, again, trying to shift the blame onto the least powerful, you know, least empowered group of political activists in the entire country and leftist third-party voters. Absolutely ridiculous, absolute insanity. And it's just crazy that people still, you know, fall for this idiocy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it makes sense because it's peddled so fucking hard by the mainstream media. Like, this is the kind of shit that you're going to hear if you tune on MSNBC. It's like, gosh, you know, if only we would have had Hillary Clinton back in the day. And you guys know what that means. There were all of those freaking sexist, misogynist, Bernie Sanders, Bernie or busters, you know, all those. That's what they're hearing, right? And they're envisioning all of this shit that they stirred up against. You know, Bernie hates women. He didn't want fucking Elizabeth Warren to be president. All those fucking people who supported Bernie Sanders hate women. They fucking hate them. They just don't want women to succeed. They just fucking hate them so much that they're willing to sell out this entire country just because they fucking hate women. That's what Bernie Sanders stood for, right? So it's just so, I mean, it's absurd, right? But if that was all we had to say about that, there was just one other thing. I know we went for a while on that. There was one other thing that I did want to talk about before we get out of here for the day. And that's just because we mentioned that this was something that we would follow up on when we had more information yesterday when we were talking about this. And so I just wanted to make good on that promise to you guys. So yesterday, Gavin and I went over the, you know, I guess trading of blows is what we decided to call it, between Chelsea Manning and Glenn Greenwald. And it was really, you know, it was one of those bummers to see go down, right? Two titans of the whistleblower community. Obviously, Chelsea Manning being an unbelievable hero for exposing the war crimes that she did. And, you know, Glenn Greenwald being a tireless advocate for, you know, not just Manning when she was in prison, but also Julian Assange and, you know, breaking the Edward Snowden case, all the stuff you guys already fucking know. Chelsea Manning just kind of really, it seemed like, came out of nowhere and had this tweet where she was explaining that she was saying that she was terrified of Glenn Greenwald and that she wasn't going to be afraid anymore and that he was greedy and unprincipled and she was ashamed for ever being friends with him and that if she had the $10,000 he once donated to her that she would give it back. And this, it was just very like strong language. Like, you know, you could like tell that there was something or it seemed as if something very emotional was going on behind the scenes. And it seemed like there was a very big accusation that was looming in the background. Like, what did Glenn do to this woman? Like, how did he treat her? What the fuck happened? Like, you know, Gavin and I were both towing the line between like, you know, it seems like we actually kind of agree with Glenn Greenwald politically here, but wanting to be open to the fact that this could be something very serious. And, you know, obviously having a lot of trust and respect and admiration for Chelsea Manning. As it stands, Glenn went ahead and published the fucking entire correspondence that he had between himself and Chelsea Manning. And I just wanted to go through it a little bit because I honestly, man, I think it's a little vindicating for Glenn. And I wanted to see what the response from everybody else was. But do you have anything you wanted to say off the bat?
I just wanted to say that I totally share your feelings that this is a bummer. Chelsea Manning is still someone that I massively respect, despite how much I may disagree with certain takes of hers. I think it's fair to say that, you know, like you said yesterday, Zach, we can't really call into question her motives. Like, she clearly is someone that cares about the right thing. And honestly, this behavior, I don't really know how to explain it. It's very odd. It's not, I don't know. I'll just stop there.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to come out and say that this looks like it's a result of the extreme trauma that she's experienced. But I will go ahead and come out and say that because this is laced with, you know, especially when we go through the exchanges. And let's just say that this is not coming with any judgment. Lord knows I would not have survived the fucking treatment that Chelsea Manning came through. I don't think, and for people to undervalue the courage and the just the absolute misery that was imposed on this woman, the torture, all of these things. Like, I mean, the mental strength that she has already showed, astronomical. However, as you read this, or I read this to you rather, and you engage with it, you might notice that this has some tellings of somebody who has suffered tremendously, as we all know that Chelsea has. So let's scroll down to some of the screenshots. As you can see here, this is basically during the time that Chelsea was imprisoned, right? So this is her attorney that's reaching out to Glenn. Hi, Glenn. Hello there. Chelsea has been trying to reach you. If you have a moment, please signal me at blank. I am a network volunteer that usually talks to you through Andrew. Thanks. And then you just keep scrolling. These are all Chelsea's attorneys. Chelsea's attorneys have launched a time served. Chelsea just published her clemency statement. Again, these are from her attorneys. Hi, Glenn. New tweet by Chelsea. Again, this isn't Chelsea. These are probably somebody that's working for her attorneys, etc. Again.
And by the way, these tweets look like they were probably sent out to everyone that followed Chelsea, not just Glenn Greenwald. It's very clear that this was like a mass sent message. Just wanted to put that out there as well.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So this is just kind of broad stroke, like our client is in prison. She's a political prisoner. We are doing everything that we can. Right. OK. And then more of that. Then she sends him a direct message. Who knows? It's not 100% clear. Thank you so much. I think this is also probably coming from a handler, etc. Glenn sends this message. Your interviews and appearances have been so inspiring. I hope you're doing as well as it seems. So thrilled that you are experiencing freedom and the full possibility of your life. XOOO or XXOO, something like that. And then he says, hi, Chelsea. He basically invites her on Jeremy Scahill's podcast when he's doing it. She doesn't respond. And then it looks like, you know, basically a year and some change later, she says, Glenn, this Tucker thing is really, really, really off mark. TC is basically organizing as a Nazball demagogue. You're losing a lot of friends here. Whose side are you on? And then he says, if you think that I argued that the effort to pressure his advertisers was wrong, you've either been seriously misled, are being dishonest, or have difficulty reading simple tweets. Either way, it's extremely disappointing that after studiously ignoring all of my messages for almost 2 full years, you finally decided to speak to me in this aggressive tone that relies on an utter distortion of everything I think and said. Finally, I don't want friends whose friendship is dependent on my agreement with every view. Hope you're well. That was not anything that I thought was even remotely disrespectful. And frankly, it was way more respectful than I probably would have been if somebody had come at me with some shit like that. So let's just keep that in mind. She says, this as a response. I'm terrified and I'm fighting this on several fronts. Sorry if I'm aggressive, but it's driven by the fact that I'm more scared now than when I saw you last. I read what you wrote and it scares me because I don't know who's on what side anymore. It's fear. And he says, okay, remember when you went to an alt-right party and took pictures with actual Nazis? And I was so fucking furious that people would imply or even wonder if you yourself were a Nazi. That's exactly how I felt when, after 2 years of ignoring me and my messages, you decided to pop into my messages and imply, based on the thinnest of evidence, that I may be some sort of a Nazi sympathizer. And that's a really bad look in this exchange. And she said, sure, not because of a photo or an association, but because of what you've been writing and who you've been defending. I'm actively trying to deplatform these folks. The right capitalized on an optics error, but everyone knows my position on the alt-right and TC is that they need to be deplatformed. This isn't a debate or marketplace of ideas. They're using stochastic terrorism tactics. I've spent months working on a campaign to topple TC, and it's finally bearing fruit. Also, you're blocking my comrades who call you out on this. I work with Emily and Shane on a daily basis. I don't want to get into a public fight over this, but this is concerning. We started this campaign. No one was talking about TC. Now we've drawn attention to him and his positions. Shane lied about my views. He claimed I was opposing the campaign and that I was advocating dialogue with white supremacists. All of that is utter lies. The fact that someone is friends with you doesn't entitle them to lie about me in public and to have access to my Twitter account in order to help them do it. I didn't oppose the campaign. I made a general point about Nate's concern that marginalized people might be wary about empowering corporations to determine what is and is not permissible speech. I explicitly said I wasn't opposing the Carlson campaign. Yes, I saw that. We can read this whole thing, I guess, because we're already going through it. He says, I feel conflicted about using corporate power to silence people because it's potential to backfire. Bingo. Just 2 weeks ago, CNN fired Mark Lamont Hill for giving a pro-Palestine speech. These are hard and complex matters, and people are entitled to discuss them without being called Nazis, or worse, having people deliberately lie about what you are and not saying. Right. That's why I blocked Shane, not for the first time. He blatantly lied about me. I said I'm not expressing any views on the propriety of Carlson's campaign. He said Glenn supports Tucker and is against the campaign. Why would I not block a liar like that? But I mean, yeah, agreed. These are hard and complex issues. Blah, blah. We can keep scrolling. Everybody can read for themselves. I guess we're putting it up on screen. But it comes down to the fact that she has an immense distaste for Tucker Carlson, and she wants him silenced, and she wants him off of the airways. And frankly, I just don't support fucking having corporations control our media space either in any capacity, whether that's to silence people or promote people. Obviously, Tucker Carlson has benefited tremendously from fucking corporate promotion and all that jazz. But I think Glenn has really principally stood as a free speech absolutist. So all of these accusations that are coming from Chelsea Manning seem pretty unfounded to me, and they all seem very pointed and kind of neoliberal, and not the way that you would talk to somebody who was your friend in general. So I just don't know why this couldn't have culminated in a conversation kind of like the one that Glenn had with Nathan Robinson, who we've both agreed with and been critical of on this podcast in different ways. But one other thing that you have to say about both those fucking guys is they just got on the fucking Zoom call and talked to each other. They said, hey, we disagree on a lot of shit. Let's fucking hash it out. And then they did. Instead of making this tweet on Twitter that kind of implied that Glenn may have abused you somehow, was kind of the vibe I think we got from it. And if I'm just being honest, I was like, did he fucking manipulate you or do something to you? That's the vibe that you were giving me. And then Glenn even openly addresses that. He was like, to dispel with the, he said, despite my not having said a single word to her since 2018, the whistleblower today claims she's terrified of me, implying serious personal abuse. Yeah. That was kind of what she was implying. And I think that if all of this was just about the fact that he's been going on Tucker Carlson, then that was really inflammatory and pretty unfair and not a critique that I agree with.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. And there's just some weird aspects of this exchange too that I just don't really know what to make of them. Let's look at this. She says, I'm not implying, I'm questioning. It's not fully clear to me where we sit on the political friend/foe scale. I trust you and I know you're a friend personally, which is why I'm talking to you personally and not on the Twitter cesspool. But that's not how the friend/enemy distinction works. I have plenty of friends who would currently fall into the category of political enemies. I can have dinner and conversations and drinks and laugh with these people, Tucker Carlson included. Your personal friends and enemies differ from your political friends and enemies, and the distinction usually isn't clear until things get heated. So this is just all over the place. I barely even understand what she's saying. And especially weird after, so you're accusing of Tucker of buddying essentially with Glenn Greenwald, but then you're going to say that I can have dinner and conversations and drinks and laugh with these people, including Tucker. Yeah, you just previously said that your entire mission in life was to deplatform Tucker. So it's just weird, and I think this applies across the spectrum, not just to people on the left, but I think that this is a sign of the way that these kind of like partisan political brainworms really get in people's mind, and it just reduces human relationships down to like friend, enemy, ally, enemy. Like these weird categorizations that don't accurately describe the nuance of human behavior or communication or nuance or anything. It's just odd. It's just bizarre, and it's not substantive either. It's like, are you my friend or my foe? Like, what are you talking about? Obviously, he was your friend. He helped you tremendously. So I think it's fair to say he's not your enemy. And if he has differences in politics than you, then why not just hash it out? Why not just like try to have a conversation instead of these weird accusations? That's what gets to me. Again, we can disagree vehemently about things. In fact, one of my favorite things about operating in the space of politics is it gives me an excuse to vehemently disagree with people. Debate. That's one of the best things about engaging in the political commentary arena. So to take issue with someone's opinions and behavior to such an extent that you're going to chalk it up to intimidation and terrifying behavior, you're my enemy, etc. It just really, to me, is a sign that you've kind of lost the ball. And that's also what this Tucker Carlson thing is a sign of to me, because again, Tucker Carlson is a buffoon. He's an idiot. He's nefarious. He's insidious. He's a propagandist, etc. But do you really think that getting rid of Tucker Carlson, had this deplatforming campaign work? Do you really think that getting rid of Tucker Carlson is going to really change anything in this country? Like, we're totally fucked from every direction. Tucker Carlson is a goofy propagandist on TV. Like, you think about the movie like V for Vendetta. You know how there's like the goofy newscaster that's his job is to just enforce all the talking points of the authoritarian administration. Like, if you watch that movie, yeah, he's goofy and he's evil, but he's not the fucking problem. The problem is the totalitarian government. Like, why are you going after the messenger, essentially? Like, why aren't you fighting the actual establishment? Why is all your time being wasted on Tucker Carlson? And I think this applies to a lot of the left, just constantly focusing ad nauseum on Tucker Carlson, blowing out of proportion everything he says and does, is not productive. It's just not. It's only giving him more attention. It's basically the same kind of strategy that led to Trump's rise, constantly giving him attention, constantly acting outrage at everything he says or does, fueling the fire of his hatred and bigotry. So, I just disagree with this outright. And again, it is weird, regardless of who's involved, regardless of, this being Chelsea and Glenn, or if it was some completely different people. I'm sorry, but it's not a good look to leave someone on red who's trying to help you for like 2 years, someone that you call your friend and so apparently considered your friend at one point. It is a bad look to ignore that person and seemingly cut them out of your life for 2 years. And then the first time you have a political disagreement, then you get in their DMs and start virtue signaling, you start calling them out. That's why people hate the left. I'm sorry, but that is why people hate the left.
Yeah, and not only that, what? You're going to cancel Tucker Carlson. You're going to get him off the air. He's not on Fox News anymore. And then Donald Trump is still your fucking president, and you think your problems are solved? This was 2018, guys. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? What? Tucker Carlson is now more powerful than our goddamn president? Like, look. How many times do I have to say it out? I think Tucker Carlson is harmful as shit, and it irritates the fuck out of me when people are like, he's more of our ally than Sam Cedar. Like, that is just the worst brainworms logic that you have. You have left brainworms if you think that's the truth. But at the same point, it's kind of like this dude only has the power that the fact that his political message resonates and the fact that he's on a major news network. But the major news network element is not that effective, right? Look at how many people whose shows get just absolute trash views on major news networks. It's like everybody on Fox News tanked except for Tucker. Sean Hannity like leveled out maybe because he's got a bunch of old people that can't get off the fucking couch and stop watching him to change the channel maybe. But anyway, it's like he has this power because his what he's saying is effective. You have to change the discourse. You have to change people's minds so that he doesn't have an audience when he says those things, so that when he says those things, they fall on deaf ears. But you know what happens when you silence somebody? It immediately makes them way more enticing, makes them sexy. It makes them, look like they're hiding or they're talking about something.
Martyrs, yeah.
Exactly. Just like we talk about all the time, just like Alex Jones, when you take him down off of all these platforms, nobody gave a fuck. I mean, people gave a fuck about Alex Jones, but like, you know what I mean? When you took him down off of the internet, everybody was talking about Alex Jones. It went from being like a subset of the internet that liked laughing at Alex Jones, and then like also a subset that unfortunately watched the guy for more serious reasons. But when you took him off the internet, everybody in the fucking world knows who he is now, and they can go find him on whatever Infowars.com if they wanted to. So it's not like he's gone anyway. It's just he's removed from the world, so we're not getting any kind of insider exposure into what he's saying, and his hardcore base is still watching him. So these kind of tactics are just completely empty. They don't work. And they just fuel more kind of like totalitarianism, more control from this like abstract Silicon Valley run, I guess, committee of truth or whatever the fuck you want to call it, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's totally accurate. And honestly, it gives me a little bit of insight into part of the reason why I feel like Glenn is so frustrated with the left, because he does talk about this a lot. And it's something that I tend to agree with him on, that at least in the modern era, a lot of the calls for censorship you're seeing are coming from the left. And this is something I've experienced. I've stumbled across lefty Twitch panels and stuff where everyone on them is advocating straight up for censorship. Just straight up saying that social media companies, these giant corporations, should be unilaterally given the right to kick off anyone. And not only should they, but it's their moral necessity to do so. That's spreading misinformation or, saying things they disagree with, etc. Because it's dangerous. And yeah, obviously information has the potential to be dangerous. We know that. Like, that's part of freedom of speech, unfortunately. So it's just crazy to me that a significant portion of the left is on this page at this point, where they're openly advocating for censorship and deplatforming where they see fit, not via some democratic, mechanism of determining that, but just, their kind of petty authoritarian tendencies coming to light. And I do think that's a legitimate reason to not want to be associated with the left. Now, I'm obviously a leftist, but if someone looks at that and says, hey, I maybe don't want to necessarily have anything to do with these people that are empowering the corporate sector, empowering the government, empowering the forces that wish to censor independent voices and truth telling from the face of the internet, scrub it out of existence. Those people definitely exist. To look at the crowd of people that is directly empowering that sentiment and to say, maybe I'd rather be a little bit more of an independent minded person that doesn't just, join the fucking flock of sheep and get behind this. I understand that. I get it. Again, it's not necessarily the calculation that I've made. I obviously consider myself a leftist. But I think that overall, what I'm trying to say is that we should think a little bit harder optically about how this kind of rhetoric and this message does come off to people that are genuine, people like Glenn Greenwald, that are independent minded, that are extremely skeptical of corporate and government power. Maybe we shouldn't be, playing right into the hands of the corporate oligarchic establishment. Perhaps that would be a good idea. Perhaps people like Glenn Greenwald would be more willing to associate with the movement if one of the tenets of the movement was not advocating for censorship. And that's essentially what Chelsea was doing. That's essentially what she was castigating him for. She's like, hey, I'm over here trying to censor this motherfucker. I'm trying to deplatform him. Why aren't you playing into my hand? Why aren't you helping me in this goal to censor and deplatform? And Glenn's like, hey, I don't know what you want me to say here, but I actually just went on there to give a nuanced opinion about my take on things, to have a reasonable discourse, which apparently people like you are incapable of. I simply was trying to express my opinion to a large audience, just like I did with Rachel Maddow, just like I have when I'm invited on any other newscaster's show. And that's the thing about a lot of these people too, like Glenn Greenwald and Jimmy Dore, who get criticized for going on Tucker Carlson's show. It's not like they're calling up Tucker and saying like, hey man, let's get together. It's been a couple weeks, bro. Let's have some drinks and talk shit, dog. No, they're being reached out to by these people to be on their show, and they would go wherever they're asked to go. You don't think that if Rachel Maddow hit up Jimmy Dore or something that he would accept the invitation? Obviously he would. That dude's desperate to get in front of cameras. He would go on any mainstream cable outlet if he was invited. The reason he goes on Tucker is because Tucker's the only one that invites him. So yeah, he's going to go there to get his message out. I can't begrudge that, just like I didn't begrudge Glenn Greenwald for going on Rachel Maddow, who's also a pro-war imperialist propagandist.
Yeah, 100%. And I think Matt Taibbi is another example of somebody who I think would more openly associate with the left if they weren't so pro-censorship. And people are like, oh, the right wing is pro-censorship. Obviously, right-wingers are pro-censorship. But I'm talking about this new emerging development, so it's Gavin, where people on the left are also really embracing censorship, right? We're talking about a new development. People on the right have always tried to squash, lefty rhetoric, right? But this old idea was that people on the left were open to free speech and that it was a liberal concept to openly debate shit. Okay, so and just to quote Matt Taibbi really quickly, he just did this excellent response that people can check out on his Substack, NPR trashes free speech, a brief response. But he was saying, in an irony that only public radio could miss, on the media hosts an hour on the perils of free speech absolutism without interviewing a defender of free speech, right? So it's you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't be this liberal bastion where it's like, oh, we're gonna be this evolved, like democracy, live in this NPR worldview, and then not actually give people an open world for debate. So it's like, censorship is only bad when it's coming from the other party. It's not something that I'm ever going to get behind. And I don't think it's something that Matt and Glenn are going to get behind either. And so while I disagree with them on some of their more, I guess I'll say cringy Twitter takes, I think that they're both rock solid when it comes to free speech. And I would recommend everybody check out that Taibbi piece, because he also echoes a lot of the frustrations that I think people who are fence sitting, like the people who could have gotten behind Bernie but went to Trump or stayed home, those are the people that were repelling like wildfire with all of this, like, oh, we're gonna fucking censor us, and you're also just repelling people like me and Gavin, because I'm like, what the fuck, this is so stupid. So yeah, I don't know, I guess we can go ahead and that's all I have to say, but whatever you wanted to wrap with.
Yeah, I just wanted to wrap with, once again saying that I think a pro-censorship position is politically poisonous for independent-minded people. I think it's reprehensible, and, it simply cannot be apologized away. I don't care what the situation is. I don't care how, bad the misinformation problem is. It's a symptom of our broken society, and it's not a symptom of, independent content creators ruining the world, which is what, the corporate media wants you to believe, and which, again, a lot of Democrats are playing right into that narrative. This is something that should be resisted and squashed immediately. It blows my mind that people on the left openly advocate for censorship without even realizing how it will come around to bite them, how it will destroy their worldview and all of their values. It disgusts me to see the left empower the corporate media, which desperately wants people like us erased from the internet and our perspectives erased from the internet because we represent real competition to them and because our ideas are better than theirs. So yeah, no, it's disgusting, and there's no place for it on the left. Anyone that's engaging in that behavior, I barely even consider them a leftist. I just think there's no apologizing for it. But, with that being said, did want to quickly shout out a few super chats. Thank you, John McKinney, for the 1999. Why do Democrats get cocky and shocked when they lose? It's why W got reelected in 2004. It's why Trump won in 2016. It's also why Dems lost in 2010 and 2014 midterms. They're about to make the same mistake in 22/24. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair to say. And I don't even know if it's a matter of getting cocky. I think it's more of a matter of just getting lazy. Like, they get into office, they have, all the branches of government, just like they did under Obama, just like they have under Biden. And then they just, decide not to do anything with that power because it's, takes a lot of political capital to actually get things done. And it's hard work. And obviously, as Biden just found out, the media will viciously come after you if you buck the orthodoxy of the oligarchy. So, there's consequences to actually trying to get things done. And most Democrats would rather just collect their paychecks and write their fucking books and give their speeches and then become lobbyists. So, that's pretty much what's happened. And I think that's why things don't get done. But yeah, appreciate the super chat. Did you have any comments on that, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's definitely laziness. I think it's also, back to brunching. It's just a matter of everything is a sales pitch. It's not a plan. So that's basically what it is, right? The Democrats are just giving you a fucking empty bill of goods, and they're never going to fucking deliver on it. And then when they get there, they're like, oh, we got in. That's job well done. Like, winning the election is all the fuck they're going to do. That's it. Every single time. Win the election and then tell you to go fuck yourself and vote again in 2 years or 4 years or 6 years or whatever the fuck it is from now. So yeah, I think that's 100% accurate. And then Joseph Gruber, thanks for that $5 super chat. The principle that is missing is the rule that you never give your allies any political power that you would not give your enemies. Exactly. I'm not giving anybody the right to fucking police what the fuck I say. And I just think that, fucking, other people are going to have bad ideas. Yeah. And I spend my whole goddamn life telling other people how bad their fucking ideas are. So I think I'm playing my role in the free speech society. So I'll be happy to take out the trash whenever anybody has a dog shit opinion. So.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah, thanks so much, Joseph, for the $5. Really appreciate that donation. Really appreciate the comment. And thanks everyone for tuning in today. Hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Definitely was lively today on the Vanguard, so really enjoyed engaging. Hope you all are doing well. Hope everyone is, staying safe right now with all this crazy weather events going on, and also staying sane with all of this depressing news going on. It's hard to even scroll through social media without seeing a million apocalyptic images. So, everyone make sure to just take it easy and make sure to take some personal time amid your activism and fight back against the capitalist establishment. But yeah, it's tough out there, and I hope everyone's doing well. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the Vanguard. I hope it's helping to make things easier for everyone and maybe even show you some direction forward as well. That's what we're interested in. So really appreciate everyone tuning in, listening to us today, yammer on like usual. But yeah, great times. Thanks, everyone. And I guess we'll do a final patron shout out before we jump off. Thanks so much to everyone supporting the show. Patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. That link is going to be the top one in the description if you want to join our patron community. We shout out our patrons at the beginning and end of every live stream and at the end of every video. It's one of the perks we offer, including access to our Discord server, early access to book club episodes, and priority on our monthly Q&A. So lots of fun times, lots of good stuff. Really appreciate the support. Everyone keeps us viewer funded, fully independent, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, thanks everyone.
Yeah, tomorrow we'll be joined by Pat and Layla from the Punch Up pod. So be back ready to talk about some news and talk some more shit. So yeah, see you guys tomorrow.